Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, I wanted to discuss with you some different police ranks and what they mean. I had some people asking me about that because in many of my videos, I talk to you guys, I tell you right from the get-go that I am a lieutenant. So a lot of people wonder what a lieutenant does. I think whoever you ask about this question, I mean, there's what's written on paper, but there's also going to be what people tell you about what these different positions do. And they also vary a lot from agency to agency. So there's many things that I'll discuss that, well, this is how my agency does it, but then there's different examples of where the same position could have something different happening with it in a different agency. Take it all with a grain of salt. This is just a brief overview so you can kind of have a little better understanding if it's something that you're interested in. So the first rank in most police departments on that lower scale would be a recruit. When people get hired, they're typically in a recruit status until they finish training and they begin their field training process. So sometimes they're also called a trainee. I know with field training, I often call my trainees. They are police officers though at that point, but before they become a police officer and when they are still doing their actual training in the academy, they are recruits. They're learning everything they need to do to become police officers, and they will stay recruits until they finish the police academy. Once they finish the police academy, they swear in and then they are police officers. Although in field training, I still call them trainees at times. It was nothing disrespectful. It was just, I'm the trainer, they're the trainee. So once they become a police officer, they will do usually 911 calls. You do have examples of officers who are sometimes in more specialized places, assignments, or doing something different than 911 calls, but the majority of your police officers typically are going to be on the street answering 911. They're working in beats. They're also doing proactive things. So when they're not on 911 calls, if they are assigned to a beat or in a beat on a specific day, they'll be working on proactive things within that area. They know their hot spots and their problem areas, so that's probably where they're going to be focusing some time and energy. In many districts, you also, in addition to your beat officers, you have cars that function in what we call an umbrella. So they'll be over an entire sector. Usually that's split into two. So just an example too of different officers' assignments just within patrol functions. You sometimes have officers who work in groups that are going to your higher crime areas, or they are working on drug cases, writing warrants, picking people up, looking for wanted people. They're doing these things within usually district assignments. You also may have different specialized units depending on what area you're working in. So you could have a foot patrol, you could have a bike patrol, you may have a traffic unit that's dedicated solely to traffic stops or traffic accidents in whatever that district or area is as well. There's a lot going on with officers and there's a lot going on with patrol. So once we move past patrol officers, a lot of agencies have, sometimes they're called corporals, sometimes they're special police officers, sometimes they're senior police officers, and these are typically your more senior people on your watches within your districts, and they're doing the same things as the police officers. So they're answering 911 calls, they're assisting with patrol. Usually because these people have some more experience, they're able to assist a lot, especially when you're on a more significant call or scene. And this is something too where in a lot of places they're also helping train the new officers, and they're also helping with different functions that a supervisor may ask them to do. And this is usually somebody that can have the kind of maturity and the sense with them to do things that require more responsibility on their part. In some agencies, these people have supervisory responsibilities and authority essentially, and then in some they don't. When you move on from your senior patrol or police officers, then you get to a supervisory rank, which in most places is a sergeant. Your sergeant is your first line supervisor, and they are responsible for all of the officers within whatever that assignment is or their district. So it depends again on the agency, but you'll often have multiple sergeants working at one time, and they also work a lot and do very similar things to a lieutenant. We'll get to that in just a minute, but your sergeants, they're going to be out on the road, they're going to be assisting officers on call. They're typically going to be the first supervisor on scene of any kind of a significant incident. In fact, there are times within my agency in any specific district where your highest level of supervision that you have 24/7 there all the time is a sergeant. So the sergeants have an incredible incredible amount of responsibility. This is something that you don't always see mirrored or reflected in every agency or even in public safety in general. But for a lot of agencies, as long as you have a supervisor there, they are the ones that are responding to significant things. When you're in an emergency situation, they are calling the shots. Your sergeants have a ton of responsibility, not only for what is happening at the time, but also for the people that are there working with them. The next supervisory level you usually have is a lieutenant, and your lieutenant is typically the commander of whatever that assignment is, or the watch. So they do a lot of administrative things and make a lot of administrative decisions. Along with that, if a lieutenant is there and on duty, which there's usually only one, so if you have a watch, you're looking at vacation time, comp time, sick time, any other kind of leave, you will not always have a lieutenant there, but you're always going to have a sergeant there. So typically the things that the lieutenant can do, unless it's something to do with actually managing a situation with the people on their watch or in their assignment, you're gonna have a sergeant able to do the same things. So a lieutenant is typically going to do more of the administrative things. They're probably going to be attending various meetings through their department or perhaps through the community where they want police there to be talking to them, explaining things to them, sharing information, and asking questions. So a lieutenant is probably going to be the representative from a department in that circumstance. Lieutenants typically also complete times, so they're responsible for making sure that people are paid and appropriate time is used for them. And then with a lieutenant as well, usually they're able to make various decisions about their people and their watches. However, sometimes if you have a situation in which people are managed in a micro kind of way, that may not always be something that they have the most ability to do based on whatever they are dealing with as far as their supervision. Lieutenants are also overseeing the different administrative functions of a specific assignment or a watch and making sure that all of that is completed as well. And while doing this, they're also responding to things that are more significant that are happening. So they're not going to be out on the road quite as much, or if they are, they probably have a really good administrative sergeant who's helping them. But typically they're not going to be having the time to be going out on different little things with officers throughout the day. Also with agencies, there are ranks or positions that may or may not be what we call promoted or appointed positions. So many times your supervisory positions are what we call promoted, but other times there are positions that are appointed, and these are a little bit different, although agencies can be very different with this. I've seen some agencies that appoint every single position and have absolutely no kind of actual promotion. Everybody is just selected. Some of these usually include things like that senior patrol officer that I discussed with you, but also detectives or investigators. So many agencies have detectives or investigators who are going to be, sometimes they'll be out there on actual calls and scenes assisting officers with collecting evidence, making sure that they are processing everything correctly, but then they also do a ton of work with follow-up with different crimes. These are typically, they could be from a wide range of crimes. They could be a property crime, it could be an assault, it could be a battery, it could be an aggravated assault, it could even be a homicide or a sexual offense. There's all kinds of different investigators and detectives within agencies that are doing those follow-up to the initial officer's investigation who's on that scene. And then we're gonna skip back over to what we have beyond a lieutenant. So usually you will have appointed positions from that point on. And for example, in my agency, the next position is a captain. So captains are overseeing different things that are going on with wherever they are assigned. So within field operations, if you're in a district, you have a captain who's overseeing everything that is happening in that district, and they are reviewing everything from crime to personnel to dealing with upper command staff to dealing with the community. And they are basically managing everyone and everything from that position. And we also have an appointed position of major, and they are doing very similar things to that captain. They're also looking at and calling the shots on different administrative things within whatever that assignment is. So they may be transferring people from unit to unit. They're basically operating their district as a mini police department, essentially. And then you also have majors and captains who are assigned to different specialized assignments, again, doing the same type of thing there. And then above that, you get into more command staff. In my agency, the next appointed rank from major is deputy chief, and they are over even larger areas and projects of people or assignments or different divisions within the department, and they are overseeing everything happening in all of those different places. Many departments also have assistant chiefs or first deputies, and they are that right-hand person to whoever the department head or chief is, and they are overseeing everything in the entire agency that is happening. There are multiple levels of supervision at all of these. I have really myself enjoyed working for an agency that has multiple levels of supervision, because just in my personal experience and circumstances, we follow a chain of command. Once you go to one, say you have a problem or there's something happening and you need to speak with a supervisor about it. So say you go to your sergeant, maybe the situation's not rectified. So you go to your lieutenant, maybe the situation's not rectified. And you can go to your captain, you can go to your major, you can go to your deputy chief. You can go through all of these different people, you know, talking about whatever an issue may be or discussing something. And in my opinion, it's very effective in being able to properly communicate what needs to be communicated to the proper people. So that is typically how you're going to look at chains of command, and you're going to look at agencies' levels of supervision. Thank you so much for watching, y'all. If you can think of different positions that I didn't talk about, they may fit in here somewhere. I know especially in other countries, it could be quite different, or at least with what the different names are, but that's typically what you're going to see. I guess I could also include in here that you usually will see different ranks or insignias for these different positions. In my agency, for example, when you have those corporals or you have investigators or detectives, they'll have rockers on their sleeves. Sergeants will also have that, so you can easily see them and identify them on scenes. And also all of the ranks from sergeant and above, everything on their uniform changes from silver to gold. And that is just another good way of identifying some kind of a supervisor on a scene. And then for the ranks of lieutenant and higher, there are epaulets that are worn on their uniforms. So if you see anything on the shoulder board of a police individual, usually that means some kind of a supervisory authority or rank. So I hope this was helpful for those of you who had any kind of questions about this. If your agency has different ranks, let me know what they are down below. There could be some different ones that kind of pop in or fit in between those. And as always, y'all stay safe out there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys. Looking for Patrice officers. I know someone named Patrice, so that's very nice. And I will see you in my